Sorry.
Aaron and Lisa asked me when they leave over the summer. So Aaron has a lot of vacation time and Lisa might take some time off.
Yeah.
So I'm coming in on Tuesday.
For you.
So they're pulling me back.
I
out.
saw that Dick Gary passed away.
Yeah. Months ago.
Was it really? I didn't know that. I just
Yeah.
saw it in the Voices just the other day.
Really?
Oh, wow. They just published it.
Yeah, there's a nice, obituaries can be nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
just, I don't mean to be flippant about it, but I didn't know that, so I don't, just.
I think we.
It's gotta be at least 4 months ago. I
I
think.
think we reckon-
Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, we recognized it. I
Maybe you did.
I think they did, yeah.
That's too bad. He was on the board of selectmen when I first.
Yeah.
Was
It's
good.
doing something now.
I know, I was gonna say, are you
Says
able
no
to get that
signal.
one?
I didn't want to touch it, Michelle, and follow up what you had planned later.
It would be cool if it worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll try the
Yeah.
input.
Okay.
We'll call the meeting to order. I would make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 26, 2022 meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
I'll second that.
Any
Beat the check.
discussion?
No,
All in
nice
favor?
job as always.
Aye.
I,
No communications, appointments and resignations. The resignation of Christian McDonald as an alternate on the Conservation Commission with our thanks for his service to the town. I would make a motion that we appoint Loretta Stagan as a full member of the Conservation Commission until 1/1/24.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
I would make the motion to appoint Robert Tomlinson as Veteran Services Contact for an indefinite term for the town of Washington.
I will definitely second that.
Just to give a brief background, Steve Waddleton was our veterans representative and he passed away last year. I reached out to Rocky, shared some state information with him. He graciously agreed to do it, so we're happy to have him on board.
yeah, that, appreciate his volunteering. Can you just tell us what that position generally,
Typically, anything that the veterans need, they need a contact point at the town that would help them to be a conduit to the state services, VA type of thing, anything with the Legion Hall, they work closely.
do you know if we have thinking about this with our other efforts with our seniors and folks in need when we have storms and all, do we have a list of veterans in town?
We do.
Okay, so if Rocky needs to communicate, something comes up at the state that he thinks he has a way to be able to communicate. with them
Yeah,
as well.
believe it or not, through our assessor's office, and we
Great.
break it out into their time of service. So if they were Vietnam era,
Right,
Korean era.
right. And it's good to know. I did not know that. Good to know. Well,
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
I didn't have anything on my report. I wanted to talk a little bit under old business about the transfers. Well, actually, no, let me bring up the job evaluations. So last year, actually started 2 years ago, I think, Jay, we created these job evaluations for our employees with the thought that it's not only a huge help to the town as the employer, but also the employees, and they set goals. It's very comprehensive, see how they're doing. They're allowed to give us feedback. So Jay finalized that form this week, got it out to us, and we're gonna get that out to the employees and start next month with getting the evaluations done. We have all the information of where they wanted to be from last year and the things they said in the comments made. So we're gonna start that next month and we'll get everybody back in.
it's great.
On old business with the transfer station, I'm meeting Monday again with Kevin Smith. And anyone is welcome to come up just to kind of finalize. We want to get started right after the 4th of July holiday. We figure about a 2+ week period where the only disruption will be no construction debris. So we'll get that out on the website and notify people, get signs made up, but that's going to help facilitate. We'll offset 1 week. We'll have the recycling in a certain spot and the next week will be the solid waste.
What time are you meeting him?
I want to say it's 3 o'clock Monday afternoon.
Yeah, I'll try to go.
Jimmy, how long is there no demolition?
It'll be at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
Possibly 3.
Thank you.
Just to, can you give us an update of how the negotiations are going with where we stand? Because obviously we're hopeful that we're going to purchase this, but without that, it's, I mean, the work needs to be done, but we need to.
So we got the green light from one of the family members, but we haven't sat down and had actual discussions yet. Keeping in mind that everything we're doing now is within that philosophy of, in the worst case scenario, it's movable. So our compactors, our containers, you know, all that kind of thing. Even the work is being done essentially in-house by Kevin and his guys. I met with Bob Papson, chairman of the Wetlands Commission, to make sure we were doing everything, you know, within specs up there and how we're gonna handle it. We'll have the electricians out to wire everything up, the whole thing.
Great.
And the goal is, and Jay knows this, he was up there, is to stop that pattern of having to do a K-turn
Right.
and back into a sort of a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
You know, going forward, people will pull forward up to where they need to dump, whether it's recycling or solid waste, and continue in that direction. There'll be no more backing up.
Right, I think that would make, it really will, people will be going is where the demolition stuff is now.
Right.
So that makes a lot better sense, pull up and go around.
Right.
I was talking with Bruce Adams about, when we were doing some interviewing, and he mentioned that he had talked to you about the idea of glass, recycling up there, and I was wondering if you had had a chance to.
I did. I
follow
reached
up on
out.
that, and whether that seems like that might be doable.
To me, what he had initially suggested in the model they used in Kent was they had a group of
Yeah, right.
volunteers that, and they provided a drop-off point for people to drop off refundables, cans, bottles, and what they did was, over the years, they've given over $100,000 for scholarships,
It's incredible.
You know?
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, the thought
Isn't that
going
amazing?
forward was, what my thought was, I contacted this company called Tomra that does the recycling machines. So instead of relying on a group of volunteers, we're just asking the residents, drop them in the machine. The only difference is you're not gonna get a receipt back, it's a donation.
Right,
Tomra comes, collects the bins, the town gets the revenue to go towards whatever
yeah.
charitable.
I think that was just a great idea.
Yeah, yeah, it was a
I'm
real.
glad to hear that that might be doable.
Yep.
Because that was just, it made so much sense.
Yeah.
To me.
So right after I finished with Bruce, I reached out to Tomra earlier this week, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. You know, because we obviously, it's single phase, we have the electricity. Michelle,
I'm just curious, is it only returnables? It's not glass and jars or things that are not.
well, we have a
returnable?
separate
Right,
thing going forward for that. So this would just be to generate revenue for either scholarships or one of our worthy
Okay.
causes, but
but one of the things we are considering up there is separating, instead of doing single stream recycling, we're gonna look at doing glass separately, because that can be, you can get, actually, people will pay you to get clean glass, as opposed to it all being dumped into one contain, you know, all this
Right.
single stream. So we did talk to Kevin about that as part of the renovation, and we're looking to do that there and identify a hauler that will come and take that away too, because that'll significantly reduce our recycling, how much we're hauling up to the recycling centers. That'll save us some money there and maybe make us a little money on the glass side. So that'd be great.
Leslie, did you have a question or comment on the transfer?
Oh, yes, thank you. We have a problem. 90% of the town is recycling. But there are a few that come in, like on Saturday, with gigantic bags of garbage, allegedly. And when I'm standing up there, or even anybody, it's cans and glass that are going into garbage. So how are we going to stop that and educate the people of what's happening?
Well,
It's
we'll
really
address- we'll
a
address
tough
it, Leslie. If we know that individuals are dumping what they shouldn't be dumping up there, and they can't fall in line with the town's policies, they'll be prohibited from the transfer station.
Well, we don't always get the names or know the people by sight because there's so many new people.
But if we witness that happening, get a license plate, whatever it takes, and we'll make sure, because they're on file if they've got a dump sticker.
Yeah, and so that's. what we're-
Okay, so next point, then it's really imperative to maybe put it up on the weekly blast for a while, that dump stickers are required. Because when I stop people, they'll say, oh, get me next time, and they drive off.
Well, what going forward, Leslie, and I've got a whole set of things that are gonna change up there. Going forward, we're not gonna have any more of that willy-nilly stuff. If someone drives in there without a sticker, myself included, I'm not dumping.
You're under the radar.
That's part of the plan, and you know, with the way we're hoping to have a stop area there where they stop
Yeah.
before they go up to dump.
Yeah.
And have an attendant at the top as well, so, you know, and if people are ignoring you, then like Jim said, a license plate and we'll follow up.
Yeah.
Because that's,
Okay, I mean, it's a plan and it's gonna take a lot of work, but I think communication, like on the website and on the weekly blast and get the environmental council board for maybe some signs.
Sure, I
Yeah.
think, Leslie, when we craft these regulations, we get everything, and I'll work with you and Lizzie and Jerry up there. We'll get everything together, get it all printed out, and then
Yep.
blast that out to all the appropriate, to your point, Facebook, website, WEC, and make sure people have an opportunity and understand
I
it.
think we can even probably put together a small, some kind of card that you can hand out up there
Yeah.
to anybody.
That might be, yeah, that might be a good start.
Okay.
Maybe something
These are
simple to
rules.
begin.
Yeah.
And it's most people, like I said, 90% of the people are cooperative. It's just those few. And if you want to start separating, that's going to be, well, I only got cans and I'm throwing them, but we can't get them into recycling either. So it's going to be a intense training period, I think.
Leslie, you know how it is. It's always, a couple, less than 10% of people that cause more of the problem. So we'll work with you and we'll work with them and we'll do the best we can.
Well, I just want things to go smoothly. I like the idea of separating the glass and then we don't have to clean up the driveway as much, but I think it's a good thing.
Great.
Yeah,
So-
and all those new containers, Leslie, are all gonna have covers. That was
Oh,
all,
good.
so you'll have no more, you won't have to deal
No
with
more
that.
dead vultures in the garbage?
Hopefully not.
Ideally, unless they're locked,
Well, we have a bear now. Has anybody told you?
no, that's the first I've heard of it.
Oh, yeah, he climbs in and then when we get there, you could ask Art Caldera. I guess he climbed out first thing in the morning when Art got there.
Is it a big dumpster?
Yeah, the garbage.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
And
Well,
he drags it out and takes it across the driveway.
he gets those steel covers off, we've got bigger issues.
Yeah, no, it's hysterical because, we've got all kinds of critters in there right now.
Well, thank you, Leslie.
Okay, thanks.
Next up is the noise ordinance. Proposed noise ordinance. So there's been a lot said about this. Simon was kind enough to put a lot of time into doing the proposed ordinance. And I can share with everyone here, my biggest concern, well, I'm concerned about the hours. So Simon, and you're certainly feel free to comment, we set the daytime hours. Some of the other municipalities, for example, in Enfield, they do a 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and we're proposing a 7:30 to 7:30. And I'm a little bit concerned. Again, we know a lot of people, most of the residents probably have some form of lawn care. I mean, there are those of us that cut our own grass and whatnot, but there's a lot of businesses in town that rely on it as well. My bigger overriding concern is the somewhat subjectivity of this whole thing. For example, how do we possibly enforce this? If say someone has an event and at 8 o'clock at night, someone's got a decibel meter and they've created how do you, I don't know. So I throw it out there to you guys.
So Jim, if I could jump in, I think the biggest thing, and I've talked to a lot of friends, both on my side of the Chippewa and a lot of others on the other side of the Chippewa, is I had a contractor who was paving a driveway across the road from me. They had a dump truck with the back slamming at 6:30 in the morning. The biggest thing is the contractor said, you can't do anything. I could start at 4 in the morning if I wanted to. If there were a noise ordinance and the message got out, I think we would instantly see contractors being much more amenable to being good neighbors again. Again, I've been in this area since the 60s. And back in the day, no one would think of starting work before 8 a.m. It was just unheard of that people were so unneighborly. So my point is, whether it's 7:30 to 7:30, whether the weekends are shorter and there's an allowance, my opinion and the opinion of the friends that I've talked to is the mere fact of having an ordinance and being able to go to a contractor who starts at 6 in the morning and say, I'm sorry, you cannot work this early. I think that would solve 99% of the issues that I've heard. And I know when I spoke to you and met with you that, and I've been on town calls where people complain, I think that would be really the start of a better control of that.
Thanks, Simon. I mean, something like that, I've always felt the construction aspect of it, our land use should be building that into their permits to say you can't start before.
Yeah.
But
I totally,
go ahead, Jay.
yeah, I agree. I guess I did read it. I'm sorry, I don't have a copy with me, but I had some of the concerns. My concern is what is I know we've looked into this before, and there's some state statutes that exempt certain businesses from doing a noise ordinance. I thought maybe that's changed. I know in the construction side of stuff, we have the ability to, through zoning or building permits, to say you can't start before a certain time. But I thought lawn care and those folks were exempt from any any town ordinance on that. Jim, am I wrong about that, or?
You're not, by and large, any DEP approved noise ordinance excludes the use of lawn maintenance equipment.
All right.
Which is not what, like Simon's issue or the troubles he's had have been big construction.
Right.
That would not be excluded.
So rather, I mean, so I wasn't clear when I read that, because that didn't see, and maybe I just didn't read it close enough, but
And the draft that I wrote for all of you to review are from
And let me just
5 or 6.
Simon, let me let Jay finish and then I'll write it down.
Absolutely, sorry.
Well, I didn't get that when I read it. Maybe I missed that it only related to construction type work as opposed to lawn maintenance, but that could just be, I read it quickly, but can we do, what is our ability to talk to land? It's the building department, right? That issues those permits.
Or even zoning to that end.
Well, you forget, I mean, zoning is one, but building issues the building permits,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Building department works for us,
Right,
right?
and those, there can be.
So what do we even need to pass an ordinance for us to say to building department that from now on,
No construction.
until whatever time we decide, whether it's 7, 7:30, 8, and goes to whatever time. I mean, I'm just thinking that would be a little easier to do and quicker than having to go through a whole ordinance that then we have to have a town meeting about, and it's to me anyway, it would be easier to do it that way. I'll leave it at that.
If I can make one more quick point, I think in my opinion, and again, when I wrote this up for all of you and I did a ton of research, these are ordinances that I used as proxies, and I took wording verbatim. Were all pre-approved by DEP from many, many different towns. It still says in there that during the hours that are allowed, whether it's 7 to 7 or 7:30 to 7:30, whatever it is, that yes, lawn care is excluded, but it does say that you cannot start running a commercial weed whacker at 6:30 in the morning. And I think there are a lot of people who say, yeah, I don't want to be woken up by someone running, lawn care equipment at 6:30 in the morning, and I don't want to hear it at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. And I think I understand that there are many contractors, but there are between 4,000 and 6,000 residents. And whether you say it's 20 lawn care contractors, I think everyone I've spoken to in the town and the meetings that I've been in have said, there's got to be a back to basics of, yeah, you don't start running pumps that are 90 to 100 decibels at 6:30 in the morning. And I just had that last week when I wrote to Jim. A lawn care contractor started work that was incredibly noisy at 6:30 in the morning. And I know they're running a business, but we're the residents. There's 6,000 of us.
And when I say contractors, I'm not referring to out of town contractors. I'm referring to people that live in this town and make their living.
I understand, Jim, I understand that, but there's 6,000 of us residents. And don't you think that 6:30 in the morning is a bit irrational to think that you can start a whole lawn care crew?
Go ahead, Jay.
I don't disagree at all about that. My question is, what legally do we have the authority to do? I think we were talking about contractors, not landscape folks, but building contractors who it sounds to me, and it's again, I think we need to vet this with Randy.
Yeah.
Sounds like we have the authority to say to our building department, as part of a building permit, you put in there, we can debate the time, whether it's 7, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and on the back end as well, we can decide that, but I think we need to ask our attorney. And then on the other end, Simon, I think the issue is, what authority do we have over landscape company? I don't disagree with you that 6:30 is ridiculous. Whether
But
it's 7 or 7, excuse me.
Happening more and more.
Please let him finish.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So whatever time we choose, I need to just understand whether we have the legal authority to do that. And I guess that's a second question for Randy. And if we could do that, then I think then we can talk. If we don't have the authority to do it, then this is all nice, but it doesn't do anything. We can't do anything. But if we do have the legal authority, then I'd love to come back and talk about times and how we go forward with that. I think it's great.
Yeah, I have no problem considering that. My concern again is, how do we possibly
Well,
enforce this?
I think it's like many other things, Jim. You know, we have the rule and we're gonna put it in place, notify people, and somebody who's not complying, somebody's gonna notify us, and we're gonna make the call to that. We're gonna end up having to go out and talk, and hopefully I believe sincerely, as Simon said, most contractors, most folks will be more than willing to, and as long as we set hours that are reasonable, they're
Yeah,
gonna do that.
set reasonable hours, but then what I've noticed increasing exponentially over the years is these neighbor disputes where people aren't even talking to one
Well,
another anymore.
yeah,
They're
that's-
using our land use department to,
Right,
and a lot of it, I hate to say it, but have been bogus claims because they're upset with their neighbor. They call up and they say they did X, Y, Z. We spend all this time and energy and find out that's not what happened.
well, but it has happened on the other end. too,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But I understand that, Jim, but go ahead. Pete.
May I, two things. One, is landscaping exempt or not? I just heard two different
It's
clear.
exempt,
opinions.
it's exempt, but to Simon's point, you can put hours to it. So you can't forbid the use of lawn maintenance equipment, but you can attach hours of use to it.
Okay, we can do that.
We
Well,
can.
then I don't understand where's the exemption?
The
During the
exemption is
day.
you can't outright ban them. You can't tell people they can't use leaf blowers, lawn mowers, weed whackers.
All day long? Well, of course not.
Yeah.
But what you can do is define daytime and nighttime hours. and
Right,
say they
okay, so that's a
can't
noise
use-
ordinance. That, of course, it would be time. So that seems like that is something we could do then. It would be within the purview, and outside the exemption would be the 6:30 in the morning or whatever we decide on time. The second thing is, I suspect, and we should hear from other folks in the public, that we're not only covering weed whackers with a noise ordinance. Right?
Correct.
So is there anybody else who has some other issue?
Want to comment?
I would like to,
Yes,
Sure, please.
would that include people as far as using power tools and power equipment like that on off hours?
Residents, you mean?
Yes.
Yes,
So it's not just.
not just contractors.
sure.
Correct.
I think so.
We don't have a problem.
Right, and I would assume loud music and, or, anything over a decibel level. It doesn't have to just be, so that the bulk of this, to your point, will be just that. If you have an ordinance, you are gonna have neighbors saying there are stereos on all night levels of the night. That's gonna be the single biggest issue that this would be addressing or coming up with.
I think-
More than landscapers are, so
Yeah.
that's the thing we need to consider.
Well,
Do we
I've got-
want,
give you guys an
do we
example.
want to open that can of worms? Because
Right.
that's a big one.
I've got a whole street full of neighbors on one road in town. I've got 4 neighbors, about 1 resident. Loud music, wee hours in the morning,
Right.
kids rocking and rolling the whole night. And I said, have you talked to your neighbor? We tried to. I said, unfortunately, right now, your only relief is if it's 11, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning is to call the police. And, we don't want to do that. And I understand it.
The police also won't respond if you're calling about noise.
Hmm.
So we have tried that before.
Really.
And we've had them really say there's really nothing we can do.
Oh,
Right.
It
Go ahead.
wasn't music, it's power.
Especially if there is
tools.
not an ordinance.
It's
Yeah.
black cat.
It's power tools. I went out last night and took a recording at 9:30 at night of our neighbor's power tool. And, it's
they were out in the dark with,
always headlamps on. He mows his lawn in the dark. He uses leaf whackers in the dark. And it's 9:30 at night.
an ordinance, the process for forming it.
Is that a video? That's a chainsaw.
Last night at 9:30.
I mean, that's inappropriate. I have no argument with that.
Yeah.
It is
The
it is
issue
what
I'm
it is.
just talking about is how do we, I think Jim's point about how do we enforce it and Pete's point about where does it go? What, you know, how, you know. So the process of doing an ordinance would be something that we would approve and take it to a town, correct?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a step, because I do think it is an issue. I mean, I'm fortunate to live in where I don't have neighbors doing that, and I'm a little more isolated maybe, so that's good for me, but who knows tomorrow, we know what happens. But would it be worth having just a general meeting to have a discussion about it, to get input from people or some? I mean, part of what you folks are talking about, and I know you know, this is just being good neighbors, that's all.
Yes.
I understand that, and we're only doing this because some people feel that they have the right to not have to worry about that, and I totally get that.
Has your neighbor been at all willing to?
No, they're really, I mean, I don't even want to go over there and approach them. I mean, I think we'll both feel a little bit like,
Yeah, to me,
you know,
Yeah.
he had a huge tree fall on our property in March of this year, and they didn't do anything about it. We had to pay for it to be removed. It was $1,100, you know, and they never came, approached us.
that's
Never,
pretty clear about the law, whose responsibility that is.
Unfortunately, that
according
is
to the insurance company.
one of the most bizarre things. If
our-
my tree
Right.
falls on your house, it's your responsibility.
Unless
It was notified
if
as a
you
hazard.
notified them that before that was gonna go.
If you had an
Yeah,
arborist,
right,
yes.
otherwise, yes.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
So I'm just wondering, Jim, if you know, because we could go round and round here, do we want to get some other, I mean, it's gonna be a ruckus, kind of, I understand that,
Yeah,
but.
it would certainly be worth a public meeting about it, Jay,
Just
to
to-
hear.
Well, if you're the ordinance, that's got to go there anyhow.
Right,
Yeah,
well, that's a good
So
point.
do you-
Leslie, did you wanna?
I just want to, are you taking into consideration the time change when you set these hours? Because most of your landscapers, you know, use this time of year to get the work done.
Yeah, I think
And
you'd have
then-
to, Leslie.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd have to.
Yeah,
Maybe we could find a way to.
because when it's dark, you're not going to hear the noise, and then you got winter, and then you got the snow plows going. So is this going to be an ongoing complaint that, you know, nobody's cooperating?
No.
New
The ordinance
Zealand time.
exempts all snow removal equipment, things of that.
Okay, good,
Yeah,
good. Because I don't want to see, you know, anybody that's trying to make a living get blasted due to time constraints.
yeah, it exempts all snow removal and things of that nature. And what we would do, to Jay's point, I think it would be worthwhile having a public meeting on it. And then we would put out the ordinance as proposed so that people can see it and have an opportunity to read through it and understand it better, and then get together and have a conversation about it. I think that would be helpful.
And I think the purpose is not to, the purpose is not to restrict businesses, it's
Sure.
to be a neighbor, it's just to be neighborly.
Right.
I mean, just, come on. Whether it's 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8, you know, well, we could argue about that time, but I think the idea is just, we're trying, you know, we're just trying to do the
I
right.
think you need to hear from some businesses, you know, what they would like to do for a start time. Because they work on the daylight hours, so that would be, you know, beneficial to talk to some of the, you know, self-employed people that are doing some of this.
Yeah, I agree, Leslie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Simon.
Yep, one quick offer that I want to make is if you would be okay with it and allow it, and you tell me if I would be happy to reach out to a couple of the towns whose ordinance are DEP approved, and I use as examples for verbatim, and have a call with them and just ask them things like, was the mere idea of putting an ordinance into place, having it approved by DEP, did that settle things down, or where have they drawn the line, without specific, but where have they drawn the line on enforcement? Like, is it only if you have 3 or 4 complaints? The other thing that I sent you, Jim, last year when we first started talking is there are actually 2 state statutes on noise that most people don't know about. and the state police are required to act on it. And I actually found an article in the state
It's 10 o'clock at night.
to a neighbor and you say, hey, can you keep it down? And they're belligerent. They are required under state statute to issue a summons on noise harassment. And I gave you the two statutes.
Yeah, after a certain time of night.
After a certain, yeah, there, I mean, it's not immediate, but it is for problem neighbors. They are required under state statute to issue a summons of some sort.
No, I appreciate that, Simon. And to your first point, yeah, you're more than welcome to reach out to those folks. I'm going to as well.
Okay.
Sharon, Salisbury and Cornwall, I know all those folks and I'll see, what experience they've had with it, but feel free to do so as well, for sure.
I think that's a great idea, Jim, to
Yeah,
actually
get their
talk to your
feedback.
peers about it. I think
Yeah.
you'll get more information,
Yeah.
possibly more information than, no offense, Simon, but having that relationship will help. I think.
None taken at all. The more the merrier.
I take umbrage with that, Jay. Our first selectman has no peer.
Fair enough.
Anything else from our visitors? Anybody care to comment?
I have
Okay,
two
go
things I
ahead.
wanted to go back under old business. If
Sure.
we could. Just, one was, I know in our, the car charger thing, the electric car charger.
Yeah.
I know I believe we purchased one, if I'm not mistaken. And I understand, Michelle and I were talking about sustainability, and she mentioned to me that there's some funding available now for towns to purchase car chargers. So I'd like to have, you guys are okay, I'd like to look into pursuing that.
Sure.
And I did talk to Linda. I got a printout because I was curious. I know we did this, I think when we were, Jim, I think the one we were talking about was going to charge people, but again, I just want this to think
Yeah.
about. We spent $5,100 as a town on that one out there for the last year. This ran from so far this year. No, it was last January of 2021 through May of 2022. So that's almost a year and a half that we spent $5,000. To me, that's I don't have a problem with us doing that as and not charging people, if you will. I think that's a great way for the town to show that we support electric vehicles. So I'd like to, I'm not asking us to debate that now, but I think
Okay.
what I'd like to do is, if you guys are okay, work with Michelle and your office, Jim, to look at some of the grants that are available. Love to have one in New Preston, love to have one over in Martindale, near the White Horse, maybe at Lake Warmont. I don't know, it'd be great. Whether we charge people or not is we can debate later, but I think it's worth us looking into.
Yeah,
If you're okay. with
I'm
it.
okay with definitely looking into it. I think we're not charging people to generate revenue.
Right,
You don't see any gas station letting people,
right.
you know what I mean? I'm just asking them to recoup the cost.
That's
to the
fair.
town.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm not looking to make revenue on it. And as a matter of fact, what my goal was to take the one that does not charge, move it up to the highway department for municipal
Yeah.
EVs. But yeah, feel free.
So, all right,
please
so
look
let's
into
talk
it.
about that.
These don't charge, right?
The
No.
current ones don't. The one we had does, but I'm still working with the garden club on. It's sensitive.
I get it.
I mean, I was always concerned that there might be some abuse. What I don't think the intent is for people who live nearby to park their
Right.
Tesla and have the town charging their vehicle every weekend. But I don't think we've seen that either.
Well, at this amount of money, even if they
Well,
are,
that-
it's not really.
Okay, I mean, that's the thing, and if we put one in New Preston, we could certainly have that, where 3 people are using the thing. That's the thing, that's not the intent, it's for people to come here, on a Sunday and
Right.
enjoy and charge their car for an hour, and that's terrific, that sends the right message, and
Yeah, I like, even if we charge Jim a nominal fee, take this amount of money and say, okay, every time we're gonna charge. Pick,
Just
$20,
enough to-
$10, whatever it is,
Right.
forget how much, that's okay,
Yeah.
we make the money back for what we're paying. I don't have a problem with that. I
Sure.
just like the idea that, a town like this has that, it offers that option to people when they come through. I think it'd be great.
completely agree.
So along with that, the other thing I just wanted to mention, and we talked about this, and I have to say I haven't followed up well, but I'd like to follow, is the issue of idling. people idling, leave. And it happens more in the winter than the summer. People, run into the store without turning their car off or that kind of thing. And there is a state statute against idling. And I've seen some websites, I forget it's Weston, Wilton, one of the towns who really done a great job in terms of signage. And not only that, but explaining to people why it's not good to do that. And literally talking about how fast your car warms up. So there's not a need if you drive down, leave your car running. If you go in the store for 10 minutes, your car's going to warm up. And I mean, they have a bunch of statistics there. So I'd like to, if you guys, again, I'd like to get some information together and come back and talk about, the winter's worse, obviously, than this time of year, but even people leave their car running because of air conditioning, they don't want to, leave it there. So
Suspect that this is a diminishing problem as gas prices rise. I think we're gonna see less and less of this,
well, when it got,
$6 a gallon, you can't afford to let.
yeah, nobody's gonna rent their car.
Honey, I'll pull into you. You're gonna get out the car, still gonna be moving. Get out.
All right, that's it. That was the two things I want.
Anything else from visitors?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim. I had in my calendar of FOI training we were doing did we actually set a date for that? I wanted,
I think it's the 14th.
Yeah, it's on the website.
yeah, that's where I saw it and then and it's June.
I think it's
I
July.
think it's
Next
June
Tuesday.
14th, yeah.
It is, yeah. Oh, yeah, I do have it. Next Tuesday at
Yep.
7:00. Okay,
Yep.
so maybe we can get some more notices out just a reminder.
Yeah, all the employees are aware, commissioners.
Great.
Is it mandatory?
No, I didn't make it mandatory because we're not under any,
Right. But,
but it's an opportunity to have a Q&A.
Yeah.
Tom will give a brief description, but we all have questions, geez, if I talk to Dean in the post office, is that an FOI by, and it can't hurt to
Right.
get that knowledge.
just for your minutes, this is Tom Herrick from,
I know.
okay, you got
Thank
it. Put that in there,
Yeah.
the name, so people realize.
He's great.
And I thought, is he gonna be able to bring us some kind of a short, some kind of pamphlet that we can give? We had talked about being able to give to.
As a resource.
New commission members and
Yeah.
stuff, so they understand how.
We did this several years ago.
Yeah.
And there was a printout sheet, and then there's also a teeny little card for quick reference.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think that'd be something that we should, remind people about.
Yeah, I got a thing from the health HVHD.
HVHD, yeah.
There was a new member sort of packet, and I
Yeah.
thought, well, there's like 4 organizations that I never got this for that I could really use now, 2 years later.
Great.
Kind of a terrific thing
Yeah.
to
Reference.
hand to new commission members and board members.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a
We may
yearly
wanna work
update
on that.
too,
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the POCD information, that kind
Correct,
of
yeah.
stuff. I mean, that's a great idea.
Rebecca, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, and I've been meaning to mention this to the zoning commission as well. We have a lot of rules and regulations on the books, and there's a lot of them that aren't enforced. And I think it's important, whenever you've got a rule and regulation, that it's something that's going to be enforced, because one, it's kind of not fair to the people who follow the rules, because then they're the ones who can't do it, but everyone else can do it because they just don't follow the rules. And two, it can put us in a legal issue if we're not enforcing things across the board for everybody. So I think as we're talking about more rules and regulations, we need to take a look at what we already have on the books and make sure that they are, one, still make sense, and two, are being enforced correctly.
Do you have examples, ones that aren't, Rebecca, so we can address?
So I'll see like the signs around town. There's lots of different sign violations, lighting violations. And I'm like, do these regulations really need to be there, or do they need to be enforced? And
Like commercial signs, Rebecca?
no, not even commercial, just sometimes like, yeah, I guess a lot of it is in the commercial district, but just they're only supposed to be certain sizes and things like that, and the number of signs and square feet per property. And it just makes me think like we need to make sure that those things are taken care of before we add more rules.
Yeah, some of those, and you're right, to that end of the zoning commission, and I mentioned this to zoning because it came up 2 or 3 years ago with, things like lawn signs and advertisements, and those, I reached out to our attorney, no matter how distasteful or offensive, and there are a few in town that are, they're protected speech. So that regulation is unconstitutional that we currently have in the zoning commission.
Unfortunately.
Then we
we-
shouldn't have it for sure.
Exactly. It shouldn't be there. For years, we had our enforcement people going out pulling up signs, and now to be told it's illegal.
The only thing you can do is if it's on state or town
If
property.
it's in the right of way, yeah.
Yeah, you can take it
Yeah.
out, but otherwise,
But thank you, Rebecca.
spend a lot of money like Woodbury did on the guy.
Anyone else? Make a motion, we adjourn.
Remind people about our,
Oh, yeah, we have a 7:30 public informational meeting on daycare, hybrid. All
Who
in favor?
seconded?
Oh.
Anybody second adjourning?
I'll
I
second
never
that.
wanted
All in
it.
favor?
All right.
You want to stay?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll make it a hybrid daycare. How